I'm invincible. I'm paying money. The girl's happy. She's got no money. I got my rocks off. Oh, how good is this?
For Glory on Sin, and then there were 9.
God. You actually opened with it. You had to do it.
That
you
was
had
beautiful.
to do it. Start on a negative note. Who are we?
Ethan Meldrum, Jordan,
Matt?
Joe? And Peter.
So, yeah, Bombers, Richmond. There's not much to take out of that other than confirming that Essendon are a basket case.
And Richmond can't kick.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, it doesn't really matter because they played a basket case. If you get as many shots, they had 24 behinds, was it?
Yeah, 18 goals, 24.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
Oh, sorry, not 13 goals, 24.
Oh, you get right.
Clutch and kick 5 points.
Yeah. Cremery kick 4 from about 6 set shots. It was the most.
Yeah, you were disappointed about that, weren't you, Mark?
Yeah. No, we don't go into that. Yeah. But, look, it was like, even when I'm watching it, you thought, this is going to be a good game. We're going to watch this game. I'm going to stay home on a Friday and watch the football. It was boring. It was bloody boring, even though Richmond won and Essendon lost, which was kind of humorous considering Essendon's fall from grace. It was really kind of boring.
And let's not forget, middle of the season, the side that they lost to Gold Coast. Let's just remember that. They lost to Gold Coast.
How does that, if Richmond had won, would they still, I don't know what the ladder looks like because I'm too lazy to check, would they still be in top 8 contention?
Well, they would if they won
those
contention. Few close games.
That's all that matters. They're not even going to finish 9th. This is a bad, and everyone's going on about it.
Because they almost beat Carlton and North as well. Like, they got within a goal of them. So, Richmond, that is.
Well, I think they've lost every game bar one by 21 points or less. So, that's an incredible stat. And it's just showcases how competitive they've been this year, and really it paid off last night. They had, 41 inside 50s in the first half or something, which was just absolutely ridiculous, record-breaking sort of numbers. So, really good performance by them last night.
Where do we kind of go from here? I mean, both teams they would have sort of expected to hopefully be contesting for a top 8 spot, and next week's just kind of going to be a real anti-climax.
It's fair to say Richmond lacked the finishes, and then Bombers have been cooled by injuries. So
the weapon.
It was honestly, it was hilarious.
Dejected on the boundary line.
Seeing Nathan Lovett-Murray hobbling around the field with about 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, and he wasn't allowed to come off because they didn't have enough people on the bench. I took a sick, twisted enjoyment out of that, seeing him hobbling around the forward line, desperate for a break. I'm a sick person, I get it.
James Hird, head in hands, sort of stuff.
Best coach ever. Best coach ever!
We'll get to that in your segment, though,
yes,
Jordan.
But, what about...
That's Marsden's segment.
Is it?
Coaching.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So what will we be talking about then, now that we're on that topic? We're talking about the coaches, obviously.
We got a few segments on... Joe's going to have a tribute to Merv Neagle, I think, and I've got a segment on the top 8 potential finishes. And Jordan, what's yours?
I'm talking about the rise of Collingwood and how they've really taken a stance for their club instead of being mangled by Cloke.
And also something making its debut, the rumour file as well, which is very, very
that's going to be huge because there are some massive rumours going around at the moment. So
and one of them is not that Essendon is crap.
No, that's
that got confirmed last night.
Myth busted. We've missed it. So, what about the Tigers? I mean, everyone's sort of been harping on about how they're a much improved team, but they haven't, as far as the ladder goes, made much progress.
Well, they're crying out for another forward and some kind of decent defence. Because they've got Rance, who's really good.
And Grimes as well, hasn't had the year.
He's had injuries.
Matt D was very good last night.
So, their midfield's as good as any, when they're on, with Mark.
Especially Shane Tuck last night.
Shane Tuck was incredible. They killed them. I mean, they're really... I mentioned it, I can't think of who they played early in the year, but I think it was Hawthorn actually, and they... the work that when they just get the ball from Marich down and then to Cochin, and then they get the ball out to someone like Grigg on the wing that fast. They look really dangerous when they can do that, and they do that a lot.
If Richmond could get Cloke, for example, that would the reason.
Start with the Cloke stuff. What, we're 6 minutes into the show, and you're starting with the Cloke stuff.
I'm just saying that.
Give it a rest. Sick of bloody Travis Cloke.
What about Dawes? They could have
Oh,
Dawes.
Dorsey and Cremery up forward with...
No, with
or another potential
Justin Westhoff.
They wouldn't double team Rewalt, is what I'm saying. If they got, even if it's not Cloke, if it's another key forward, they wouldn't
potential
double
forward,
team
we might mention
Rewalt.
rumour file as well.
Yeah. Yeah, well, they wouldn't double team Rewalt because
Every
they'd have
bloody
another
week we
good
talk about
thing.
Travis Cloke.
They'd have five.
We are the Damien Barretts of sin.
It's fair to say they tried the North Melbourne tactic of 3 talls last night. Asprey, McGuan, can't kick a goal.
McGuan's doing alright, though.
And Rewalt. It worked a little bit, but...
You got to keep in mind, Rewalt, I think he kicked 3-5.
He did.
Yeah, so, had he kicked half of those points, he would have had, 5-3 or 6-2, something like that.
He looked incredibly dangerous the whole night. Anytime the ball was kicked down, it was always, he would just always look very promising. And he was really good with his second efforts. I remember there was a play where I think he was up on the wing. He spilt the mark, but then he handballed off, and then 10 seconds later, he was, the ball ended up in his hands in the forward line.
It's what you want to see from Rewalt. Rather than the demonstrative sort of play, gets freaky pat against him, wins the umpire, sort of stuff. Working for the team, that's what you want to see from Rewalt going forward.
It was good. It was good to watch Rewalt last night because he did give away a few free kicks, and he didn't have a whinge about it, and you don't really see that often with Jack Rewalt. But it was good to see him just go about the job, and he ended up, he only kicked 3 goals, but it was, he had 8 shots at goal, and that's sort of the bottom line, is he's getting shots.
It's fair to
You go on.
It's fair to say when he's running and jumping at the footy, he's a much better player than when he's grappling with his defenders.
Well, he's got a very good leap, and he knows how to take a good mark, so...
Now, Essendon, they had another 2 or 3 injuries last night. What do they do next week? Do they just
Rest
sit at
everybody.
home and play the kids, and
everybody.
including Gumbleton?
Yeah.
He's basically a child.
Just rest their best.
He did kick 3 goals against Port.
Yeah, he kicked 1 goal last night. He had about 4 or 5 touches. Key defender.
Yeah, he's come back from injuries.
He's come back from injury for about 5
And he's gotten Joe convertible.
Do a Freo against Hawthorn that year and just, screw up the complete top 8.
Well, Richmond, Essendon have got Collingwood next week.
Yeah.
Oh, geez, do they need percentage? Collingwood?
Yeah,
If they do, well, they've got to bloody well get it.
Which we'll get to in my segment as well.
Well, there you go. I'm ruining it.
I'm anticipating the rest of the show already. But another player I'd like to know, arguably Richmond's most improved this year, is Shane Edwards.
I was going to say Tucky, maybe.
Well, we know Tucky's had the ability, but Shane Edwards was fringe player, looking like he wasn't up to AFL standard probably last year, 2 years ago. He's really revitalised himself as a forward now. He just looks really dangerous when he gets near the footy. So I think him feeding off Rewalt, Vickery when he comes back, just roving around the packs, could be a very dangerous small forward.
He does look good, Edwards, but do we find it weird Shane Tuck's still on a 1-year contract?
No, not
I
really.
wouldn't say so.
Because next year he could turn around and have an average one.
He's had 3 good years.
Oh, but see, that also might have something to do with the fact that he knows he's on a knife's edge. So if he mucks up, he's gone basically. So he knows he has to perform at that.
And
really
he's
helping.
29 years old, isn't he?
Yeah.
It's getting to the point where offering 2-year contracts is dangerous when a player can just break down with injury, and a 4-week hamstring a 2-week hamstring could turn into 4 or 5 weeks. So it's probably the better option, the smarter option to go with 1-year contracts for him.
Yeah, obviously, something we haven't mentioned at all. If you want to text us in with your thoughts on last night's game on 0427 767 767.
Now, we mentioned off the top of the show that we got the rumour mill coming around this week, and one of those, I won't get into it too much, but we haven't seen Lance Franklin for a few weeks now. I think it's 6 weeks off. So, look, he's had a lot of things. He's been accused of a lot of things, so we know that. But, see, we know he's guilty. We know he's been up to a lot of stuff. And you know what? I'm going to share the top 11 things Lance Franklin has been up to in the last 6 weeks. So get ready for this. He's a bad guy. Oh, he's a bad guy. He's worse than what I thought. Number 11, making a coat out of puppy fur. He's a bad guy. He's a bad guy. Number 10, dancing to Miley Cyrus. That's not good.
Partying in the USA.
Yeah. Number 9, swapping Lance Armstrong's urine sample with Tom Liberatore's. He's a bad guy. He's a very bad guy. No wonder he's in trouble. Number 8, setting fire to an old folks' home. That's a new low, Lance. That's a new low. Number 7, as Jordan Cannell to my far right said the other week, sinking piss with Dane Swan. Not good at all. Number 6, working out a trade to Port Adelaide. That ain't good. That ain't good for anybody, not even Port Adelaide. And number 5, partying with Julian Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy. If you zoom in closely on pictures, you'll be able to see him. Number 4, dangling money on a fishing rod in front of Travis Cloke. The poor guy, he's struggling. Number 3, turning into a puma and roaming Victoria, Animorph style. All over the news at the moment. Number 2, shaving bald patches in Brent Guerra's hair. He's struggling enough, and then you go and do something like that. That's pretty bad. And number 1, now this one, he's worse than what I thought. Number 1, kidnapping people, putting them in an empty well, demanding they put lotion on their skin, and then making a bodysuit out of them. If you know that reference, if you get the reference, I respect you. So now we're going to go to some sin messages.
Another bizarrely random moment brought to you by Brain Juice.
First person in will get it. Ready?
The Choir of Hell. This is what they play to people in Guantanamo Bay with, like, strobe lights on repeat. We will break you!
If you want to hear about more experimental Guantanamo Bay interrogation techniques, listen to Brain Juice, Sin's only quiz show, Saturdays from 3 to 4 p.m. Get your juices flowing.
Here at Bring On the Sunshine, we pride ourselves on song announcing accuracy. We're going back a little bit now. Bit of Johnny Carter now, and June Cash with Jackson. Flog. No, actually, Simon, you're a flog. Any sane person would know it's Johnny Cash, not Johnny Carter. Bring On the Sunshine, 10 p.m. Sunday nights, only on Sin.
Sin Radio 90.7.
No one would have believed in the
first
years of the
21st
century that human affairs were being watched
by Panorama. Human affairs by young people, for young people. 4 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday on Sin.
On your marks. Get set. Sin.
Back on Bound for Glory on Sin. Text us in on 0427 767 767.
Yeah, lads, we hear a lot about the coaches all throughout the year. So I thought, the year's coming to a close, might as well give them a bit of an assessment, and feel free to disagree or agree with me as I go. I'm going to go from the highest rated coach slowly down to who I think was the worst this season. Starting number 1, Brendan Sanderson. Brendan Sanderson. Good start. Brendan Sanderson, Adelaide coach. I gave him a 9 out of 10. I think Adelaide have always been one of those teams where they could have. They've had the list to be good, but a lot of the reason they are good is some good coaching on his behalf. They've had that soft draw that we've talked about a lot, but still, you can only win the games that are put in front of you, and they've won most of their games.
Well, so much better than last year, anyway.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Rise of players like Dangerfield and Sloan.
That's
still.
It. And yeah,
really
you mark that down a lot to coaching. Next I got John Longmire, Sydney coach. I've given him 8.5. Again, Sydney are a team that always looked damaging, but he sort of lifted them up that extra level. If you look at their games closely, sort of changed their structures a little bit. They're much more damaging when they go forward. The structure is basically sound when you're sort of teaching a team how to line up and to set up their structure. You'd want to look at Sydney because they're perfect.
Well, their contested ball winners are, you'd say, second to none.
Yeah, definitely. Next, John Worsfold, West Coast coach. I've also given him an 8.5. He's carried on his good work from last year. They've been struck down by injuries, as we've mentioned. And if they don't win a flag, you could probably mark it down to injuries because they have an exceptional list. And they've done most of their work this year without Josh Kennedy, who comes back this week, and Mark Lacroix. So, if you put them back in the team, all of a sudden they look extremely damaging. Next, Alistair Clarkson, Hawthorn coach. I've given him an 8. Again, Hawks just look like a threatening team. Structures again. It's a big part in football, the structures and how you line up, and they win a lot of games based on the way that they pick the team and they set the team up, and it's magnificent. Next, Brad Scott, North Melbourne. I've given him an 8 because there was a time in this season where they were done and they were completely cooked. But the best coaches learn from their mistakes, and he has most certainly learned from his mistakes. I think it's 9 out of the last 10 they've won. The one lost by 2 points to West Coast Just they look sensational at the moment. They're getting benefits out of. I think they looked internally, and I think Brad Scott mentioned earlier in the year that he doubted himself as well when they're on that good winning run. So yeah, they've looked internally and sort of fixed things up, and it's magnificent. Next, I got Kevin Sheedy, GWS coach. I've given him an 8 because they are down the bottom of the ladder, but it's the fact that they're setting up a team for the future, and they've targeted the right players, they've built the right team, and they've built a team that can be threatening in 2, 3, 4 years' time. Number 8, next I've gone is Nathan Buckley, Collingwood coach. I've given him an 8. He got a lot of scrutiny throughout the year. Started off really slowly, but he did lead Collingwood to that 10-0 run mid-season. They had a lot of rough games in there as well. Does anybody disagree with any of that so far at all? You got Sheedy, I've got an 8.
Sheedy, I reckon you probably could have given a 7 or a 7.5 in comparison to the rest of the list, which you go through in a sec.
I think it's magnificent. I think he's done an excellent job.
Sheedy or Mark Williams?
No, Sheedy.
This
isn't a James Hird situation with Bomber Thompson. We'll get to that.
All Mark Williams does is play with that portable fan in the coach's box.
Brett Ratton, Carlton coach, I've given a 7.5. I certainly don't think he's worth giving the sack to at all, as has been mentioned. Again, he's had a lot of injuries to deal with, but he's kept the team around the mark. They're still in contention for finals. Considering how bad the season could have got and how bad it did get at one point, I think he's done well to sort of steady the ship when things got rough. Ross Lyon, Fremantle coach, I've given a 7.5. Again, the best coaches learn from their mistakes. Fremantle were terrible to watch. They had a key forward in Matthew Pavlich that was playing as a pinch hit ruckman or a tall midfielder or something like that. And they finally said, hey, we've got this big guy, let's put him forward. And you know what happens? He kicks goals. Who would have thought? So, yeah, Ross Lyon, I've given a big fat 7.5 to. Chris Scott, Geelong coach, 7.5. You can't really. He's been good, but Geelong are a good side, even with the people that retired last year. They're still a good side. He sort of hasn't blown the world away, but he's done enough. He's kept Geelong in the top 8, and that's sort of what you'd want from him. Damien Hardwick, Richmond coach, I've given a 7. Although they will miss finals, they've actually started to look damaging this year. As mentioned before, that as far as ladder position goes, they haven't really made a lot of inroads, but they've built a team, again, a lot like GWS. They've built a team that could be damaging in years to come, and players like Cochin and the drafting of Ivan Maric was just, that's a masterpiece. Mark Neagle, Melbourne coach, I've given a 7. He goes about football the right way, and a lot like Damien Hardwick, he's built that team that could do something in a few years. You've got to keep in mind they lost Mitch Clark relatively early in the season. Had they had him for the last half of the year, they'd probably notch up 2 or 3 more wins. Most likely. I mean, they haven't been bad without him as well. A lot of people expected them to be flogged week in, week out, and they haven't really. Scott Waters, St Kilda, I've given a 7 also. He doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot for St Kilda. I mean, they've got a good list, and it seems as though he's sort of coasting, in a way. You're sort of shaking your head there, Ethan?
I'm shaking my head because when you see the players like Del Santo and Montagna still going along strongly, and then the inclusion of Stephen Armitage coming along through the midfield, and then you see Dempster's having a near Royal Australian year, I would have thought, in the back line with Fisher now. He's really improved.
That's what I mean. He's
and then again the forwards such as Milne, Sard, Stanley still going along very well. I mentioned well. So I would have thought putting him in the Mark Neagle, Damien Hardwick. Actually, Damien Hardwick probably deserves a high number as well, but putting him in that category, I think, is a little bit harsh.
Each to their own. James Hird, I've given a 6.5. He spends a lot of time with his hands in his head, as we've seen from a great...
Hands in his head.
So
is that physically possible?
Every goddamn week.
There's plenty of space there, guys. It's okay.
Jesus Christ. Jesus.
Good call, Pete.
Yeah, he's very careless with his coaching, it looks like. I mean, if you have a look at the Melbourne game again, that's sort of embarrassing to see that he's sort of just chilling out. They're down by 6 points with a few minutes to go, and it's just no worries at all. Matthew Primus / Gary Hocking from Port Adelaide, I gave a 6.5 to. Primus never should have been sacked. I think we've sort of agreed on that. Port Adelaide have made huge inroads from last year. They've come along in leaps and bounds. The fact that he got sacked in itself is farcical and an absolute joke, but that's a topic for another time. Port Adelaide, they haven't been terrible. I mean, they've claimed a few big scalps that comeback against North Melbourne was classy, although they only played a quarter of a game. But look, they haven't been that terrible, really. Michael Voss, Brisbane coach, I've given a 6. I've labelled him the imaginary coach. He doesn't seem to do a whole lot in the box. I mean, again, if you look at the list, it seems to be the players doing a lot of work rather than rotations and structures and that sort of thing. I think if I'm not saying he should go or anything like that, but I think they need to reassess the way that they line up on a week-to-week basis.
I disagree.
Yeah.
I think he's really developed a game plan that works around his players. I think he's really set up an attacking half-back line with Golby and Hanlon. He's really let those two become...
Yeah, and that shows on how high they are on the ladder.
But they did just come back from 41 points down against top 4 side.
Are they still where are they on the ladder?
Yeah, but they've won 8 games, which is probably, a little bit better than what you'd expect.
I've given him a 6. Brendan McCartney,
Yeah,
Western
but Matt,
Bulldogs
we're a
coach.
GWS on the ladder, Matt.
Right, you got me. Brendan McCartney, Western Bulldogs, I've given him a 6. I don't think he's a bad coach at all. I don't think he has a whole lot to work with the list. He's sort of just coasting, really. You can't criticise him a whole lot, but he's not blowing down the competition, really. So he's just sort of there. I expect him to lift the team a little bit next year, hopefully if they get a key forward, something like that. And the worst coach I'm rating for the year, the one left, is Guy McKenna from the Gold Coast. I've given him a 5. He doesn't appear to do anything at all. I mean, Gold Coast, I think you could argue that they're no better than they are last year. In fact, I personally think they've taken 2 steps backwards. A lot of that comes down to the selection table. From my opinion, I don't think they choose teams that can win games. I think in the last couple of weeks they've brought in a few good forwards that can kick goals. But other than that, they've really got... You look at the team and you think it's just a bunch of running small players, and they haven't really got many good key players. And they've got some on their list, and they don't play them.
And just on that, that's a good point. I've just thought I'd read this out. We've got a couple of texts in. There's a few Saints supporters that are not happy. One said, Scott Waters only a 7, has re-energised the team by injecting youth. And the other one said, Scott Waters only a 7, has re-energised our list and put in youth. Unlike Ross Lyon, Nunes, Sipos, Cripps, Donnell, Sard blooded this year.
It's great. No, it's good to see the new kids come in, but again, structurally, I think I mentioned structurally, they don't really look great.
I think it's the right step going forward because you have such a great, there's such a big gap between the older players such as Del Santo, Goddard, Montagna, and then you've got the players such as Nunes, Sipos, Donnell, who are the players you want getting games going forward because really. In 3 or 4 years' time, under Ross Lyon, those kids aren't getting games. They're really going to be in a very bad position if they weren't. So, I think it's good.
Now, quickly, just before we go to some SIN messages, just around the table, who do we think is the best and worst coach of this year?
Worst coach, I would say definitely Guy McKenna. He just hasn't done the right things with the development of his list. And for me, the best coach is John Longmire. And I just don't think he's gotten enough credit. I think a lot of people just say it's really the players that have got it done, but I think he's done a lot.
I'm going to have to agree with that. I was going to mention Damien Hardwick. I think probably deserves another mention because I think after that round 1 loss by, 40-odd points to Carlton, really provided competitiveness for them. But, Longmire is probably the best coach this year, and McKenna, I think, comfortably the worst.
Best coach, Brad Scott.
No. Is that genuine or
That's
what?
genuine.
You're wearing a North Melbourne jumper. I
am, but if you think we lost to Port, nearly lost to Gold Coast, he's fixed the team. He has.
He's done a lot of work.
He's done a lot of work. I'm not saying he's a bad coach or anything. He's been a good coach. He hasn't been the best.
Yeah.
No,
we're talking over the course of the season, which had they beaten Port and Bulldogs, then maybe we would be talking. That's the thing. I agree with Matt and thought Sanderson is the best. Or Sandylands is the best. And McKenna the worst. So, okay, and with that, we'll head off to some SIN messages.
What you hear on community radio is governed by the Community Broadcasting Codes of Practice. The Codes of Practice cover matters relating to program content that are of concern to the community, including local content, news, current affairs, Australian music content, programs for children, and the responsibilities associated with broadcasting to the community. They also cover aspects such as community access and participation in the operation of this service. Copies of the codes are available from the Community Broadcasting Association website, www.cbaa.org.au.
No one would have believed in the
First
years of the
21st
century that human affairs were being watched
by Panorama. Human affairs by young people for young people. 4 to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday on SYN.
Brain juice tip number 4. Never trust your host. All right, here we go. This is question number 6. Going to fill in the blank here. An apple a day
Keeps the doctor away.
Ah, no, it doesn't. That's stupid. You have to go to check us. I'm not going to allow that one. Ah, that was a good question. Brain juice. Saturdays from 3 to 4. Beware the evil quizmaster.
Back on Bound for Glory on SYN. Text us in on 0427 767 767.
Especially if you're an angry St Kilda supporter. We love that.
7 out of 10 isn't bad. Keep that in mind. 7 out of that's Geelong this season.
All right. Let's head on to something that's slightly more positive than Matt's rating of St Kilda. We're going to be talking about.
10 out of 10 ain't bad.
And something with more intelligence than the GWS rating of 8.
Oh, that's not GWS. That's Sheedy.
Anyway,
you mean Williams? Talk about your thing.
The fan man.
Alright, we're going to be talking about how Collingwood is heading in the right direction. I know we're all sick of hearing about Travis Cloke, and I think the Pies have just, I think they've silenced their critics by doing what is, personally, I think, the most beneficial thing for the club. During the week, they signed up Reid and Fasolo, and they added Beams as well recently. So, when Cloke was on the having an interview on the Footy Show, I just couldn't believe, how he kind of came off as smug to me, and he held the whole club at ransom. I think the Pies have absolutely done the best thing by essentially saying, you know what, we're doing what's best for the club, so if you don't like it, you can nick off, whatever, good luck to you. I think Cloke has chosen the worst possible season to be in a form slump. If you're going to demand $1 million a year, I think you better go out and start kicking 3 to 4 goals every game. And I think that if there's anyone that deserves $800 plus a year on a 5-year contract, it's Dane Beams. He's certainly proven that he bleeds for the club, and he's just absolutely dominated this year. I can understand why the Pies, desperately tried to negotiate with him. Like, he's their best key forward. I mean, they've got no one else really. Dawes is pretty much average.
Sorry, quickly. The mark when he was by last week he's 20 metres in space. Goes to take a chest mark and it bounces off his shirt.
Yeah, the mark that pretty much an under 10 could have taken. Yeah, just no.
Under 10 would have taken.
Yeah,
Embarrassing. Oh dear.
Another positive move is they've elevated Beams and Jared Blair into the leadership group. I think 12 months ago, most of the football public, if you asked them who would be the next Collingwood captain, I mean, why is Maxwell still captain, by the way? I think everyone would have conclusively said, Pendlebury, because he just seems like the right man for the job.
I think Pendlebury is a logical option for next captain, but I think Maxwell's doing a good job at the moment.
He's
I think actually borderline underrated.
Yeah,
the work he does, the second efforts, the 1%ers.
He's just good with the leadership.
You sort of wrapped it up perfectly. He's not a great player, but he is a leader.
And you can't say he doesn't try. That's the thing. Like when the chips are down, he's going to get in there.
You're going to get 100% from the
a paddler and a biter and a scratcher and a grabber, but
everyone's got
a leader.
For example, Jake King's in the Richmond's top 10 players.
But he's not captain.
Hang on. Whoa.
Yeah, Jake King's in the leadership
group.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I can't imagine him being a leader.
Moving on.
Right. I genuinely think Dane Beams could be their next, either if Pendlebury becomes captain, I think he could definitely be vice captain, moving on to captain in a few years. I think he's just, proven that he is Collingwood's main man. I think everyone should, adequately, we should reward Collingwood, saying that, they deserve the praise that they get for telling Cloke to get stuffed.
So maybe Premiership Cup?
I don't know about that.
Reward them.
Grand final berth, maybe, and then a loss, just so that we can have a good day in October.
By 1 point.
Yes, please. While leading by 40 points at three-quarter time. Please. Deliver it, please. Footy gods, please.
Just quickly, who would, if Cloke goes, who do the Pies play up forward? Do we put
Dorsey?
Well, Jackson Payne.
That's
Jackson Payne. Jackson Payne.
He's in the best form, sadly. Payne's actually our best key forward.
Could Ben Reid go forward?
He could, but who goes?
I moved Swan forward before.
Yeah, I think Swan would be
Swan he kicks like 4 or 5 goals when he's actually in the
Put
forward
him.
line as a
You
full
play him
time.
as a half forward because if you can get 30, 40 touches a game and kick 2 goals, which he
He'd
does
be
a lot
too
of the
quick
time,
for the
he's too
key
young.
forwards and too strong for the small forwards. So
Actually, if you
think-
could have and you got to remember that Luke Ball isn't playing this year. If they get Luke Ball out, they get him and players like Beams getting the dirty ball and then getting the ball out to someone like, I don't know, Sidebottom.
I think in regards to Reid moving forward, I think it's a very, very good option. You got Lockie Keefe and Nathan Brown, very capable key defenders as we've seen this year, and Nathan Brown last year, of course. And Ben Reid, I think he's a good reader of the play. A lot like his brother Sam, he can take a very good mark overhead. I think he's a potential option to go forward with Payne and Dawes. That could be a very lethal combination with Cloke out.
All right. Well, I think Joe, you've got a piece on Merv Neagle.
Just on a serious note here, Essendon champion Merv Neagle died recently, I think on Thursday, in a car crash in New South Wales. Neagle is 54 years of age. He was the champion of the Essendon Football Club. He played 147 games from 1977 to 1985. He typified what the Essendon spirit was, ruthless and attack of the footy. He came second in the 1980 Brownlow behind the Dogs' Kelvin Templeton. He'll surely be missed by the whole footy community. I've just got a few quotes from Kerry Danaher. It's certainly a sad day, and our condolences go out to the family on what is a tough day for them. All his close mates and his teammates at Essendon Football Club are shocked to hear the sad news. He was a terrific, hard-running player on the wing for us, who gave us all and had a tendency to run all day without a spell. He'll be surely missed. I remember my dad always admiring him and telling me how he would dominate Windy Hill and how he was a footballer's footballer. He'll be surely missed. Rip Merv. I think we can all say we've watched Biff's Bumps and Brawls, the great production of by Sports Entertainment video, yeah.
I think something like that.
And there's some famous footage of Merv getting thrown into the fence face first at Arden Street by someone, and him bouncing back straight up and looking around like he was going to belt the living hell out of him. So, in this sad time, Rip Merv. Are we going to an ad?
Yeah. Just quickly, no, we sort of love those sort of players. We know that we're never going to have that back from the old days where players could just, give each other a bit of biff and then have a drink after the game of footy. So it's obviously in the past, but when you look back and you sort of look at his career and look at his highlights and look at some of the stuff you've done, he will be missed.
So our condolences go out from Banff Glory to the Neagle family, and with that we'll go to some messages.
Warning, brain juice may cause spontaneous singing.
Positively can do all the things that make us
Laugh and cry, calling tossed salads and scrambled eggs. What a wonderful kind of day.
You're on sin.
Wow, that was well done. We should sample that and use that more often.
Yeah, I know. That's just going to be the promo for this show. Brain Juice, Saturdays from 3 to 4.
Who wants to play video games?
Radio Respawn. Saturdays 1 to 2 p.m.
Getting insight from developers?
Academy Award-winning Ben Britton, Tin Man Games.
I'm Sam from Rush's Games.
The media.
Gaetano Pretia, editor at mmgm.com.
Richard Plunkett from the Puppet and Geek.
Also giving gamers the opportunity
To discuss the latest and greatest in the gaming world, join Josh
Saturdays 1 to 2 p.m. for Radio Respawn.
Sends community for gamers.
By games.
Do you want drama? Do you want intrigue? Do you want conversations about the scariest part of a pony? Or if it's creepy to wink at people? Then you want the Prop Showsal. Every week, Ben and Vicky will be proposing, well, just about anything. You can be sure you do not want to miss it. Listen to it live on SYN, Saturday mornings at 11, or at propshowsal.com.
Back on Bound for Glory on SYN. Text us in on 0427 767 767. Heath, you're going to look at the run home?
Yeah, very interesting run home. Game last night was irrelevant, except for Richmond potentially finishing ninth. But we got, it's fairly close up top half of the ladder as well. We got 3 teams on 15 wins, and Sydney, of course, a game clear of everybody. So Sydney, I think, look like they're going to finish first, although they do have Hawthorn at home, which they could very well lose, and then Geelong at Skilled, which they beat them last year. But Geelong, you never know what you're going to get from them. So they'll finish top 2. They'll get their home final, and they have a very good run into the grand final as well. Hawthorn, very good percentage, which will help them against Adelaide and Collingwood behind them. So I think you can say they're the favourites to finish top 2. But again, they have Sydney away, which it could very well be a loss. And West Coast at home, I think they would win that. So I think they're the front runners for top 2, which would give them a home final against either Adelaide or Collingwood by the looks of things. Adelaide, they could get in to the top 2 if they win both their games, and they have to count on Hawthorn to lose one, or Sydney even both their games. So it looks like they'll finish 3rd or 4th. And the same applies for Collingwood, because both of them have a percentage around 120, 125, which in comparison to Hawthorn, which is just under 160. So they can't catch up that way. They're going to have to win at least a game more than them. So you'd say the top 4 is set, even though West Coast they're a game behind that group of 3 on 15 wins. It looks like West Coast can't finish top 4. I mean, they'd need a very good run, and they need to rely on other games. Although they do have a better percentage than Collingwood, so if they win tonight, they do overtake Collingwood, and they'll have to then, I think, perform. Well, they'll probably have to win against Hawthorn at the MCG as well. With Collingwood playing Essendon, you think that's a very comfortable win there. So West Coast, I mean, they could finish anywhere. They could finish 2nd. If everything goes their way, they could finish as low as 7th if everything doesn't. So it's very unpredictable where West Coast might finish, which leaves potential easier final for either North Melbourne or Geelong. Both have 2 very winnable games. North have Fremantle at Etihad Stadium, which I think we can probably agree is a win there, and then GWS over at Skoda Stadium, so I think that's 2 wins for them. Geelong have the Dogs at Etihad Stadium tomorrow, and then Sydney at Skilled. So a win and a very 50-50 game. So I think North could potentially finish 5th, with West Coast having a tough draw. Percentage, there's about 10% difference between West Coast and North, but that could very easily be made up with a big win over GWS, and West Coast having a tough draw as well. So they could very well leapfrog West Coast into 5th position and a very good run at finals. Probably playing either Freo or Carlton. It's going to be a very interesting finish to the end of the season. Freo have North, which they'll probably lose that. And then Melbourne at Patterson's, you think, is a given win. So they'll finish 13 and 9, you would imagine. But Carlton, they have Freo and GWS. Sorry, not Freo and GWS. Who are they?
Gold Coast.
Gold Coast and St Kilda. I forgot to copy and paste. So they go Gold Coast and St Kilda. You'd think if they beat St Kilda with a superior percentage to that of Freo, I think they would make top 8. So a North versus Carlton elimination final looks very much on the cards, and probably West Coast Geelong as well, I would say.
I reckon if North play Carlton in the first round of finals, a lot of the result will have to do with the venue. If it's at Etihad, I think North will spank them. If it's at MCG, I think it'll be a very good contest.
I think
it will be.
I think that'll be the MCG, actually.
Because if Geelong play West Coast, even if it's in Melbourne,
I will bloody get in the finals, Carlton. Jesus.
Yeah. And St Kilda, you'd think, is really much of a chance as well, although they do have a really good percentage. Essendon as well, with their loss last night, won't make it. And Richmond could finish 9th, but again, needs results to go their way.
We need Carlton to lose to Gold Coast. So if you're going to lose to Gold Coast, at least you know that's the possibility of what could happen. So we can at least all laugh at Richmond again.
Long story short, ha Richmond.
So there's a few interesting games as well with potential top 4, top 8 shaping. Like West Coast, Collingwood, Hawthorn, Sydney. A few games between top 4 competitors. So.
The one interesting point I was thinking, you know how they make with the round 23, how they try and get all the finalists together, then shuffle them up. By the sounds of it, they obviously didn't think Adelaide and North were going to make finals. Because wouldn't it have been logical to play Gold Coast against GWS or something in the last round? Because it's obvious those two aren't going to play finals. So, that's what they try and do. They deliberately try and do it. And the fact that they've got North and Adelaide against the 2 bottom teams, does that basically say that they didn't think they were going to make finals?
Well, they've done Richmond, Port Adelaide again this year.
Yeah, well, let's face it, they were a pretty safe bet.
But it was based on last year's ladder, wasn't it? Because
Adelaide and North both missed the 8 as well.
Yeah.
So
that's true, but you'd think you'd give them more chance than the others making it.
As a North Melbourne supporter, I'm not complaining.
You should have been top 4. That's
Then again, does that give them a disadvantage because they're playing someone weak? Like, same with Adelaide. If you come up, say, against whoever the hell they're playing, one of the crap teams, then they come up against, say, a Hawthorn the next week. It's such a change in atmosphere that it's...
I disagree. It allows them to manage their players a little bit more carefully than what they would if they had to play a top side. So I think, obviously, it goes both ways because they're going to adjust to having to play a better team, but I don't think it's not much of a disadvantage to play a lower ranked team.
So I think we're going to wrap up this segment. Go to making its debut, the rumour file.
The rumour file, yes, we're excited. We've got to say straight off the top.
I knew Matt was highly anticipating this
yes,
one.
So straight off the top, we've got to say everything mentioned in the next 10 odd minutes will be allegedly. There's no real.
We are speculating. Nothing.
Yes, completely speculating. First off the bat, we've been trying to avoid this topic because we talk about it every week. Travis Cloke, what have we heard?
Well, you think there's not enough room in the cap for him.
He's everywhere. He's at every club at the moment.
He's at
Sydney,
he's currently playing for Fremantle, Carlton, Sydney,
are in the
Melbourne,
race now.
Richmond, everybody.
When I heard on the news last night that Cloke was linked to Sydney, I nearly fell off my chair.
It means he'll bloody win the Collingwood next year. Because if he goes to Sydney, they just make everybody good.
Sydney has made a bid.
There you go. So, and look, who are the players at Collingwood they've re-signed? They've re-signed Reid for Solo, Beams, and there was one more, I believe.
Well, they signed Sidebottom and that earlier.
Oh, yeah. And I think they mentioned before they signed all these players that they only had something like $1,800,000 or something like that in the cap. So, look, there's really not much money for Cloke if you sort of look at it closely. There's real no way he's going to stay unless he signs for $300,000 a year or something like that.
It's become an auction though. Who can afford it? It's just like highest bidder wins.
And that's that Footy Show interview. He pretty much sort of summed it up that he's going to go because he didn't do himself any favours. He didn't do Collingwood any favours. His form at the moment,
he's travelling okay according to the Herald Sun.
Yeah. And of course, the rumour that is circulating the internet about Travis Cloke is that Collingwood are considering rookieing Brendan Favola.
Yes, we're going to get rid of
this story.
Apparently, who's going to tell the story? Is it you or me? Is it?
Well,
it's in Anthony. Bloody awkward.
I thought you were getting into it.
Go,
Matt.
The story, as I believe it, is that after the E.J. Whitten Legends match in which Favola kicked 9 goals, Eddie Maguire, obvious president of Collingwood, on his talk show in the morning, the Hot Breakfast, on the day after he made a comment about signing Favola. It was sort of swept under the rug as a joke, just a passing comment. But apparently he's very interested in Favola, so interested in that he got him in, I think, a few days after the Legends match and said to him, Fev, all right, we're interested, we like the way you go about your footy. Apparently they've hired a training coach specifically for Favola to get his weight down, get his fitness up, and they're going to sign him on a rookie deal, $30,000 per year, $40,000 per year, I believe. Yeah. And they take him with a rookie selection. And you'd assume if they did, he'd be the nominated rookie. I think. What do we think about that? I mean,
he'll be 32 next year.
I think, I believe so. And the rumour, it's not just some passing comment. I can't think of who exactly said it, but it was someone who is in the AFL media. I can't think of his name. Ben Kazupi, our producer, would know more about that because he probably can't remember the name either. But really didn't come in prepared with this. But no, that's the story for Fev, apparently.
Well, there's apparently a behaviour clause in...
Saying apparently a lot.
Well,
because everything's apparently.
Apparent.
We're entirely speculating.
The apparent file.
It'd actually be a very good rookie choice, I would have thought.
And apparently he didn't go to the EJ Whitten after-match function either.
Yeah, no, he went straight home. And if this was mentioned, I think this is what started the meeting with Maguire, is that they were talking about it. And they were talking about the after party, and Feb just said, no, look, I just went home to my wife and kids. And Eddie said, I'm impressed, come have a talk with me. And then they talked about potentially figuring out something.
It's actually a entertainment journalist by the name of David Griffith. He's linked to the Herald Sun. He's done some work. He wrote a play. It's actually a very
credible source.
It's a credible source. He's in and around in certain journalistic circles, and that's what he reported yesterday.
Thank you very much, Ben Kazufi, producer of Bound for Glory. Now, the other big topic at the moment is the weapon at Essendon Football Club, Dean Robinson.
High performance manager.
Yes, their performance manager. And we know they've had, I think, after last night, it's 18 or 19 individual players that have had
whatever
soft
it is,
tissue
it's a
injuries.
big number.
Yeah, it's big. And it's not, it's a ridiculous number.
It's too big.
And, 18 it is. So, the rumour is basically that he's gone. It was rumoured during the week that he was on leave, or he was told to go on leave. That's been scratched. Stress leave. That's been scratched as he was on the bench last night.
Looking dejected.
Yes, looking very. As soon as there was a soft tissue injury, he did the old James Hird with the head and the hands.
The hands and the head.
Let it go. Let it go.
Well, he's in his first year of a 3-year contract. Do you think that he'll definitely be gone, or will they, maybe modify his role and get someone else to step up as the strength and conditioning?
If you look at, you'd think they'd just pay him out and say go away because he's a time bomb, and I think he's already gone off, really.
I disagree. I think he worked with the Cats, and a lot of the Cats
18
players...
18 soft tissue.
He had a different role as purely as a strength person. I think he should be the person that does the strength, and they should just get a running coach, to
I agree with that.
Interdependently, yeah.
Because Essendon were 9-1
Yeah.
at the start of the season,
Yeah.
and it seemed to be working.
And there was no doubt that we were playing a lot more strong contested footy. So I think, credit where it's due. He did a great job on bulking the players up, but obviously it's taken its toll. So we'll move on to the next one.
Pav's injury.
Yeah, Pav's injury.
Yes. It was said on Finey's final siren last night, apparently, that Pavlich is about 77% chance to miss. I don't know where he got 77% out of. Obviously, he's some sort of mathematician. But, so if Pav were to miss, tomorrow it is against North Melbourne, you'd think that would that would be Fremantle's season, assuming that Carlton beats St Kilda next week.
Good point.
Yeah.
We also had the Lance Franklin rumours.
Which he's come out and denied. Just thought we'd get that off the bat. He has come out and denied all of them. So
I want to talk about the big issue is, we've already mentioned this is the Fev thing. I think this is huge.
Oh yeah.
I mean, if Cloke, where would Cloke go? I mean, as we mentioned, it's a bidding war, but where do we think he will go?
I hope he goes to Sydney. I think they could definitely win a flag with him there.
Oh, so I hope he doesn't go to Sydney.
Yeah. I reckon Collingwood VFL side.
Could they play the three tall forwards? Fev, Cloke,
They can't.
and
They haven't
Dawes?
got the money at the moment. It's a matter of they haven't got the money. I mean, we said earlier in the year it's that one of these players for Solo, Reid, and Beams and Wellingham, one of them would have to go, if not two, in order for Cloke to stay. They've re-signed all of them. Therefore, you'd think they haven't got room for Cloke, and they've sort of prepared to say, all right, goodbye. And the Fev rumour sort of strengthens that, if it's true.
I think they've got the amount they were offering him at the start of the season, whatever it is, $750, and they said, this is what we've got, this is all we've got, you either take it or leave it, there's nothing left.
I think
that'll be what it is.
I think one of Cloke or Wellingham is gone, and I think the other one's going to have to take a pay cut as well.
There is a rumour to do with the Fev thing that Trav had actually accepted the offer before the Olympics, and David had said no. That was the rumour that I'd heard, that he'd actually accepted the offer, and that David Cloke had said no,
So
we want more money. The offer that Collingwood had offered. Like, Collingwood had offered them something, and he'd accepted it.
True.
With the extra stuff on the 5th year, so performance-based stuff. He'd accepted it, and David had said
Look,
no.
that's plausible considering they then said to David Cloke to stick your head out, sort of thing. So it makes sense, but at the same time, why would he then deny it after they got rid of David Cloke from the negotiations?
Well, that's interesting, but yeah, it's just one of those things. So.
Just one last rumour. Brent Harvey was apparently touted by Carlton and Hawthorn.
Yeah, no, that's what I heard, and I couldn't believe it.
Where's this come from?
Last night I
Triple
heard
M.
that
Do you know who said it?
Damien Barrett.
Oh dear Christ!
Hawthorn were apparently really keen on
It's wrong. That's it. We can move on. It's wrong.
He also sent Scott Burns to Melbourne last year.
Dunstall confirmed it. All right. Well, how do they know? Question: how do they know this?
Well,
It's
strange that you would take someone who's obviously so much a part of one club and has been for.
I don't think you could get Brent Harvey out of North Melbourne if you put an anchor on the end of him and towed him down the street. It's no. I can't believe that one. I didn't even know that was a rumour. That's
the story goes like this. Basically, Brett Harvey's manager, Shane Kirsten, and North Melbourne's football manager, Donald McDonald, they were extremely far apart in getting a deal. Hawthorn has confirmed by Dunstall approached Brett Harvey's management with interest. And yesterday, it's all they have to do. North Melbourne have obviously worked. JB obviously has made a call to Donald and said, I don't want this out there. We need to get Harvey signed. So it's basically going to happen in the next couple of weeks. They've committed to it. But Hawthorn confirmed had interest in Brent Harvey.
Why would Harvey want to leave?
I don't think he will.
I don't. There just doesn't seem much plausibility in that.
Next rumour will be Hawthorn will head after Fletcher or something.
Yeah.
I think with that we can go to the previews. We got a race release. St Kilda versus Greater Western Sydney. I think we can pretty much say this one's
that can be a
bye. We'll skip that. It'll be, again, it's another margin thing. But you got to keep in mind, Saints don't really have any damaging tall forwards.
But Cozzy is out, so with that we're picking Saints.
Another lazy 7 changes for GWS as well. Reece Cooper making his debut as well.
Are they tanking?
Good play.
No.
They can't tank. You've got to
need to tank. They already got it.
All right, Port and Brisbane at Amy. I think. Yeah,
I think this one's got a bit more legs than people's giving it credit for.
It's going to be close, this one.
I think so. I mean, Brisbane
12th, are we?
Yeah, it's real league.
Draft pick 12.
Thinking. No, Brisbane have been good. Without blowing down the world, they've been relatively good. Port Adelaide will be desperate for a win. I think that's obvious. They've recorded, was it last week they recorded their lowest crowd attendance ever, I believe?
Since 2009.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not ever. So well done to me. I'm sticking with Brisbane, but with no certainty. I think it'll be an under 20 points job today.
I'm tipping Port Adelaide.
Brisbane haven't lost to a side lower than them on the ladder this year, so with that, I'm also tipping Brisbane.
Yeah, I'm going Brisbane as well.
Yeah, Brisbane should win.
This is the real big game, Sydney versus Hawthorn.
Twilight game.
Twilight game today.
Well, big stars back for Hawthorn, Mitchell, Franklin and Gibson. That's huge.
Well,
someone's excited.
Yeah. Very monotone. That's huge. So excited. Very Julia Gillard of you. But I slided.
It's another venue matters thing.
I think the venue sort of determines this. It's meant to be the game of the round. I think it'll be Sydney relatively comfortably by about 30 points. I think they'll get out to that 30 points at about half time, and it'll be a seesawing contest from there, but the job will be done in the first half.
Well, it's also worth noting that Mitchell is apparently a 50-50 chance as well. And Max Bailey's also taken the flight with them, along with Bradley Hill, nominated emergency. So we could see one or
Franklin
two
out.
changes.
Franklin out.
Can we say Franklin?
So
will
I
play?
was thinking Franklin as well. Sorry.
Are we saying Franklin will play?
He's travelled, so you think so?
Yeah,
he's up
not
there.
definite.
You never know.
Could be just going to holiday or something.
All right, so tips, guys.
Yeah, Sydney.
Yeah,
comfortably.
Sydney by under a goal.
Ooh.
All right, West Coast Collingwood at Patterson's tonight, 7:40.
Yeah, another good one. We got Josh Kennedy back for the Eagles and Dane Swan back for the Magpies. Collingwood were very, very bad last week against North Melbourne. They didn't really have any forward prowess other than that first quarter where they blew out to a 20-odd point lead and then blew it.
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing last week, but in saying that, North were bloody good. So there's they were the second best performance against Collingwood, apart from the Hawthorn one all year.
Do you think an effort like that from Collingwood will beat West Coast at Patterson?
An effort like that from Collingwood wouldn't beat Essendon in the last round. But in saying that, North are double the team Essendon are. So, current state because Essendon don't have any players. But, right now I'm tipping West Coast. But you know what? They're probably going to win this. Collingwood will win this and they'll lose to Essendon. I can see it now.
Yeah, it's one of those games that bugs up everybody's tips because they think
interesting
it's
to note.
Like the Adelaide game.
So. Ben Johnson comes back from his long-awaited shoulder reconstruction injury. Cameron Wood against Nick Naitanui and Dean Cox.
He actually
That'll be
beat
fun.
them last year. That was the funny thing. And
Wood is
gets
actually
beaten by 18-year-olds and then beats on the good ones. I just don't get it.
Wood's actually a very good ruckman. He just doesn't get a gig.
Yeah, and
Could
it's
add that
not
to the
gonna
rumour
help him
file he's moving
'cause
elsewhere.
Next week they said Jolly's definitely coming back in, so you know what that means. So.
In theory, I think Kennedy and Darling forward will win it, but it's whether in practice it'll happen. With that said, I'm tipping West Coast.
On paper, West Coast are better, but I can't go past Collingwood interstate.
Pies by 10 points for me.
When's the last time Collingwood's lost a game in state?
Oh, they built up a good streak now.
2007, I think.
That's huge.
Something like that.
Making me question my tips. Stop it. Stop it.
Oh, well, I've tipped West Coast, but you know what? Who knows?
Gold Coast Carlton.
This will be the one that you'll be switching over to at half-time if there's a few extra minutes longer in the Carlton.
See how many Gary has.
Yeah, just check how many touches Ablett's got. See how big Carlton in front.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, Carlton by a lot.
Yeah, Carlton by plenty.
Late.
Geelong and Bulldogs.
Same again, Geelong by plenty.
Yeah,
Geelong.
Yeah, you'd think so, but Geelong they haven't really made Simmons a fortress. Bulldogs were very good in the first half and then they got blown away, I think, by 82
Travis
points.
Barco comes back as well.
Yeah, Geelong, I think. I don't think it'll be as big as people say, but I think Geelong.
Geelong will win.
Much more interesting matchup. North and Freo tomorrow at Etihad.
If there's no Pavlich, this is done.
Yeah, no,
I
reckon even with
if
Pavlich.
there is a Pavlich, it's done.
North at Etihad.
Yeah, no, North will
sensational
belt
team.
them, living daylights out of them. Based on
How many points?
say
How many points?
goals.
Give me a number. Give me a number.
At least 10 goals. I think.
Ooh.
At least 10 goals.
We couldn't beat Melbourne by 10 goals. How was it supposed to be Freo?
Couldn't beat Port by
Based
10
on,
goals.
based on form, the last few weeks, I think they'll absolutely smack them.
I'm going to say North by about 30 points.
I'm going North as well, but a lot less. I think it's going to be less than 20.
I think it'll be really high scoring. I think it'll be one of those like 150 to
Shootout,
120.
shootout.
Shoot it!
Hanson on Dawson.
That'll
That's
let
How
us
many goals for Hanson?
10. I'm calling.
So
Last game of the round.
Melbourne and Adelaide tomorrow
Yeah,
at the MCG.
thrilling.
Still, I don't know.
Melbourne will be very happy that this is at the MCG.
Yeah.
Clearly crazy, but I think Melbourne can win.
Yeah, I know.
I got that feeling too.
this will be a closer game than the North Freo. Just saying now. This will be a closer
Yeah,
game than North
I
Freo.
think, I agree with that.
They're sending Brad Green off. About time Melbourne put in some effort.
Jesus.
Well, I think for Green's last game and for all these hundreds, I think Melbourne will lift, but I can't go past Adelaide.
I do think Adelaide will be
yeah.
pretty let down that they dropped a relatively easy one last week and they're up by 36 points or something like that. So I think they'll win. Again, it's one of those things, I don't think they'll win by a lot.
Yeah, no, I think Melbourne will actually care a little bit about this game, and Adelaide will
For a
win
nice
maybe
change.
4 or 5 goals, I think.
I think Melbourne care about every game, Pete, but Sloan out as well is very
should have
interesting.
pulled us.
Ooh, I didn't know about that one.
With an elbow injury.
Yeah. Okay.
Elbow injury, or is he going somewhere? Rumour file.
All speculation, of course.
Speculation.
Plugs, guys.
BoundForGloryNews.com. Very
Yes,
good news
fantastic.
site.
Best news site ever in history.
Sarge Supercoach.
Of course, follow him on Twitter at Sarge.
And of course, we are on Twitter and Facebook as well, Bound for Glory FM. So, two things to follow and like as well.
Good show.
That's about it. See you next week.
I'm invincible. I'm paying money. The girl's happy. She's got no money. I got my rocks off. Oh, how good is this?